Ishwarama's resplendent sun. It's the start of a bright new day. Time to rise, time to shine, Lord divine. Time to lead us along life's way. Awake, Lord of Buddha party. Awake, O Lord, over all mankind. Awake, O Lord of compassion. That the world good fortune may find.
You know, we were brought up as Catholics and we loved our Catholic religion, but we always felt there was something lacking. And then quite unexpectedly someone loaned us one of Howard Murphy's books, Avatar, and we were so excited about this book. We couldn't stop talking about it. There were very few people, this was right back in 1978 I think in Australia, who knew about Baba then. And finally someone invited us to come and see a film, and it was Arthur who showed the film, and it was Baba. Well, the minute we saw that film, he stood out on the balcony and our hearts just turned over. We thought, this is what we've been looking for all our lives. So all we wanted to do was to come to Baba. So it took us a year. Finally, after a lot of negotiating, a year later, Arthur brought us in 1980. And Baba called us in for an interview, and there were very few people here that year for Christmas. There were only 1,000 Westerners. Marvellous. And we had the Christmas in the roundhouse, in the only one roundhouse then, which was the Roundhouse 3, and the choir had 17 people in it, and they sang Hallelujah. And Baba came into the roundhouse, and there was a concert, and we all stood around the balconies, and there weren't enough of us even to fill the top floor. And we all had candles. It was really beautiful. And then a few days later he called us in for an interview. And we were halfway down the back, a lot of people in the front. I think we'll let Dorothy tell the story from then, because that's really her story.
Well, of course he called us in and there was great excitement. There were 30 of us in the group. And he said, he came in and I was right at the back. We both were. My mother was with us too, who was 80 at the time. Anyway, we were all sitting at the back, and Baba came in and he looked at the group and he said, now, do you want to speak on spiritual matters? And of course, everybody just froze. We weren't even used to this. These days, he said it a few times and we kind of know more how to react, but we just froze. And he said, don't any of you speak Australian? Well, of course, everybody laughed straight away. When he said, don't you speak Australian, everybody relaxed and we all started to talk, one on top of the other. And someone was saying, oh, Baba, can I talk to you about my son? Oh, Baba, can I talk to you about my book? Baba, I'd like to talk to you about my husband. And I said, Baba, I'd like to talk to you about the centre that we have in Australia for disabled people. And he looked at me and he said, come up here, and pulled us from the back and said, sit here, right at his feet. So he asked about the centre, and I just said to him...
he said, what do you do for these people?
Yeah, and I said, well, Baba, we really try to understand them and to love them. And he said, to understand them is difficult, but to love them is easy. And he spoke a little bit more about it, and he was so sweet, and then he gave me this ring. And now, first of all, he said, all right, he said, I have something blue for you. Now, none of us had ever seen this ring. It was very early, and people said, it's not blue, it's green. Well, I said, Baba said it's blue, so I like blue, and for me it's always been a blue ring. Anyway, manifested this ring, and then I said, "Ah," and he said, "Ah," put it behind his back. And I said, "Oh, Baba." He said, "Oh, give me your hand." So I gave him my hand, and he said to me, 20 years ago, you wished to get married. You planned to get married. But then you said, no, my work is my life." And he said, "Give me your hand," and he popped on that finger. So I tell everybody now I'm not available for anything else. He married me to my work. Anyway, then he talked a little bit more about it, and then he said, now he said, when you go back, he said, you can put that on the hands and the feet of the disabled people, and it will help them. And he said, also, later you will see Baba in there. Not yet, but later. And then he said, and now for you, he said, this is a very simple life. He said, no yoga, no jnana, no research. He said, you just go back, and your life from now on will be love, 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 and touch, touch, touch. So it was wonderful. Then he spoke to Moiya and my mother after that.
That was in 80. My mother was with us, and he loved my mother. And he used to come out, and we'd be in Darshan, and we often got in the front row then because there weren't that many people. And he used to look at us and he'd say, "Ah, mother in the middle, daughter each side. Ah, you wear sari." Oh no, on Christmas Day then we all put saris on, which Westerners didn't wear saris those days, but we did. And he said, "Ah, you wear saris, Indian dress. Ah, very good." So we've worn saris ever since for Baba. But it was quite interesting. Then he looked at me, and he'd given my mother a japamala, and he'd given Dorothy the ring in the interview room. And then he looked at me and he said, "Before you go, I will give you a good ring." But I didn't get my ring for 7 years. Every time I came, I hoped I'd get it. I got it eventually.
And tell them when you got it, you said, "Now will I put this on the hands and the feet of the disabled people?"
And he said, "No, this ring is for you." Well, I still put it on the hand, on the people if I have a problem client, a problem patient, who I'm having a little difficult getting to react the way I want them to do.
Or getting to relax, really.
Or relax, I put the ring on them. But then I came then, Dorothy and my mother didn't come back then for many years, but I came, every Christmas I came, it was just beautiful. And the first year I came back, I thought, oh, Barbara will never even notice me, you know, because I haven't got my mother and the sister with me. The very first day he came out and he said to me, "Ah, you've come back. And how is your mother? And how is your sister?" And then he looked round and he said, "Twins." And the lady beside me said, "Does he think you and I are twins?" Anyway, every time I came from then on, I had 7 Christmases here, and he always talked about my mother and my sister. And one day on the 60th birthday, we had the Christmas up in Brindavan in the little marriage hall, and he gave us all pad namaskar. And he came along, and as he came to me, he took my hand and he said, "Where is your sister? Why doesn't she come?" I said, "Well, Baba, she will come." But Dorothy was very much involved with the SWARA organisation, and also my mother, who was quite elderly at that stage and not terribly well, and then she developed her arthritis. So they really was very difficult for her to come back, or my mother. But we would say to Baba, "Oh, Baba," he'd talk about my mother, "Oh, my mother would love to come, but she's a little fragile." And he said, "No need." He used to touch his heart so sweetly. And eventually, Anna, you tell them how you got here. That's an interesting story.
Well, I had arthritis, and it got worse and worse. Funny thing, I got it the year after. As soon as I went back from being here in 80, I started to get the stiff knees and the aches. Anyway, it got worse and worse right up to recently, about 3 years ago, when my family all said to me, "Look, you've got to have knee replacements. You absolutely have to. You can't go on like this." And I had been resisting it, but anyway, I went off and saw the doctor, and he actually said he'd never seen worse knees. Honestly, he said, "And I will book you in almost immediately, and I will give you, but I'll have to do the 2 knees together." Well, I came out, and I felt really bad about it. I mean, my whole being was against this surgery. I just couldn't bear the thought of it. I wanted, of all things, to get out of going, but I felt I was letting everybody down. So Valmay, who was with us, came to the doctor with me. Moya and Valmay got me there. I would never have been there otherwise. And Valmay came to the interview. She had an interview. We were still at home at that time. And she said, Barbara, I'd like to talk to you about Dorothy's knees, because she thought Barbara would say yes, yes, and then I would be convinced, because she knew how unhappy I was about it. And Barbara said, no operation. She said, but Barbara, she's in pain and she can't walk. I was in a wheelchair. He said, no operation, I will operate. So Valmay rang me up that night. It was our birthday, actually. I said, the most wonderful birthday present I have ever had. So I wrote to the doctor straight away and I said to him, you gave me an alternative that day, and you said to me, when I said to you, doctor, is there anything that would save me but an operation? He said, nothing but divine intervention. So I wrote back and I said, I have decided to take your second option, doctor, and I'm not having the operation. And everybody said he will be very annoyed because he's given you some very special treatment by putting you in quickly. Anyway, but he said, I accept your decision, but I am here if ever you want me, which is very sweet. So anyway, then Valmay 2 days later had another interview, and she wasn't satisfied at all about that. She said, Barbara, I'd like to talk to you again about Dorothy's knees. And he said, no operation. She said, but Barbara, she can't walk and she's in pain. He said, no operation, I will help. She said, but Barbara, he just kept her quiet like that, so she kept quiet. She came back and she said to me, in her mind, she said, I've got to get her back to Barbara. He's going to cure her, but I think I've got to get her there. Now, in my mind over there, I was thinking, I'd love to go now. I feel now I'd like to go. And every time I would meditate, Barbara doesn't really come to me in dreams or anything like that, but when I can close my eyes, I really visualise him very clearly, and he speaks to me. I can hear what he's saying, and he shows me things. So I was sitting there this night, and I suddenly saw him, and he had his hand up like this. And I thought, he's saying, why fear when I am near? That's what that picture means. So every time I sat and meditated and talked to him, I always saw him like that. One day I said to Moiya, it's a funny thing, I said, in the picture he's got his right hand up, because we have the picture on the wall, but when I see him he's got his left hand up, and she said, the left hand means a taking hand, the right hand means a giving hand. I said, that's it, I'm going to Barbara, he's calling me. So we made arrangements and we came. And the day that we arrived with Valmay, we were sitting on the outside, and he came up and he saw Valmay and he said, and did the twins come?
I said, you've come. And did you bring the sisters, the twins?
So 3 days later he called us for an interview, and on the veranda we were sitting at the back, and he came up and he said to Valmay, are the twins here? Yes, Barbara, they're here, and I was in a wheelchair.
I was on sticks at that time because I had fallen and broken my hip.
So she wheeled us in, and Moiya struggled in beside me, and he called us in, and we sat down, and then he called us into the inner interview room. And I said, oh, Barbara, will you please heal my knees? And he said, yes, yes. And Moiya said, will you heal me too, Barbara? And he said, you aren't bad like her. He said, no comparison, but I will heal you too because you want to look after disabled people. Oh, thank you, Barbara. So then he got up and he got his hands and he went like that on my knees, very firmly like that, round and round and round, really hard pressure. And then he went like that above them, hard pressure again. And then he looked at me and he said, now can you get up? I said, if you help me, I can, Barbara. So he sort of helped me out of the chair. Then he said to me, now can you walk? And I said, oh, Barbara, with your help I could do anything. So he took my hand and he took Moya's hand on the other side. By that time she discarded her crutches, and he led us right out to the inner interview room, right out to the veranda where it was here, where all the boys were sitting. And he said, call Valmay, bring the chair. So Valmay came behind with the chair, and I'm on one side and he's on the other, and he sort of showed us off the boys. And then he said to me, now go. And he just let me go. And I went like this, I just walked, you know. And after a while, Moiya came forward and took my hand, because she by that time discarded the crutches, and we walked right back to where the chairs were, right at the back. Anyway, I didn't get back in the wheelchair again, and that was it. But But I'm still a little bit wobbly on my feet, but I wouldn't get into a wheelchair even now, except that they make me get in because I'm so slow getting from the Roundhouse 5 where we live up to up to where we have to come. But I never use a wheelchair at home. As a matter of fact, I gave the wheelchair away.
We left it here last time.
We left it here, and people want to buy it, and I said, oh no, we'll just keep it and lend it to people who need it. And whenever I climb stairs and I do things, I wish I was better. I keep saying, Barbara, I can't let you down, I'm going to get better. So I don't accept any help unless I really need it. And the last time we were here, we were in an interview, and he looked at me and he said, he looked at an old man in a wheelchair, he said, she was in a chair, but I got her up.
I got her off sticks, he said.
And I got her off sticks. So that was my story.
Rather sweet, wasn't it, about the healing? But another rather sweet story, we came with another group, this was last year, and we weren't really in a group, but it was the Gallagher family, and we were sort of very friendly with them, so we said, well, if you go into an interview, we'll come. If we go in, they said, we'll come. So we called them in, and he didn't call her, and we got up, and we walked up, and he went like that. So we had to sit back again, and he took the others, and he never came and got us. And when he got into the room, he said to them, where are the twin sisters? Oh, they will be so disappointed, and the knee aches. Oh, that's sweet. Anyway, that afternoon he came out and he said, twin sisters, were you very disappointed this morning? Oh, yes, Barbara, we were very disappointed. Never mind, I will call. Anyway, he did about 2 days later. He took
But first of all, he came up one day and I said, oh, Barbara, when will you call? And he made the boot. He said, you know, that'll do you for the time being. I will call. So we had to have a booty. But the very next day he called. And after that interview, he came back the next afternoon and he said, twin sisters, and are you sad today? Oh, no, Barbara, not sad anymore.
And that was rather sweet, and we said it was really worth missing out on that interview just to know how Barbara was tuning in and felt the ache in her knees. Wasn't it sweet? It was a really sweet story.
And he said to Valmay last year, twin sisters, he always called us the pink twins. So that's why we wear the pink saris, because he called us that, and that's why we always dress like twins
when
for
we're not here
him.
and say, how are the pink sisters?
And he said, oh, they're well, Barbara. Yes, but the knee still aches, the knee still aches.
And it was rather sweet. We were here in September, and we had a lovely interview, and then he walked along one day and he said, when do you leave? And we said, oh, in about a week, Barbara. And he said, he said, happy, happy. And then he walked along and he came back and he said, don't go, you stay. This is your house. Walked on. We're in a real quandary. What can we do? We've still got a place over there for disabled people we have to run, and our homes and everything, our family. So we didn't know what to do. So we thought, oh, we can't go if you said stay. So we were
But we had to go. It was really a quandary. So can I tell them the story? Moya was sitting in the dark and the Budgeons, and we always sing our own words to Barbara because we don't know the Indian words. So she's sitting there thinking, clarification, Barbara, clarification, Barbara, 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 clarification, clarification, Barbara. Anyway, you heard it, because the next day he called us in.
The next morning he called us in. And we said to him, Barbara, can we go home? We'll come back. And he said, go and come, no, stay. So then later on Dorothy said to him, well, other things were going on, and she said to him, Barbara, we really do have to go home because we've got to go out there to do your service, run your organisation. He didn't answer. And after a while, Valmay said, Barbara, we've got our tickets booked for the 15th, can we go? And he said, all right, you go, but you'll come back in December. So we had to come back 6 weeks later, we're back here. It was just beautiful. My mother died, he loved my mother, and she died just recently. And I think that's why he feels it's very sad for us at home, why he wants us to spend more time here. And it's been a wonderful help too, because our first Christmas in our whole lives without her would have been really sad. Oh, I had a few without her when I was here, but it was just sweet. He came in, the very first day we came, he walked along the line, you see, and he said, oh, you came, how are you? I said, oh, Barbara, we're very sad about our little mother. He went, oh, rubbed my shoulder, and he gave us the booty. And then when he called us in, he said, your mother is here with me. Oh, no, he didn't say yes. He said, she is here. Your mother is here. She is here in my heart. She is here with me. Me. She is here. And he was smiling. Oh, is she happy, Baba? Oh, yes, happy. She is with me. Really sweet. And then we had another interview a bit later, and Faye was in that one, and he was sitting there and he was talking to her boys. We were sitting this side of him and they were there, and he was talking to them quite earnestly, and all of a sudden he looked round at me and he said, your mother is here with me now. Wasn't that sweet? She was obviously there because she always wanted to come back to Barbara. So I think that's why we're here, and we had this beautiful Christmas, and he came along yesterday and he said to us, are you happy? Oh, yes, Barbara, we're very happy.
Have we got a bit more time?
About the saris.
And also about you were praying to sit up the front.
Oh, yes, and about the saris too. Because we were helping with the costumes, and Barbara said all the people in the play could said to Faye, bring them all in, we'll give them a sari. So we came in to get our saris, and we were sitting there, and he walked up and he said, sisters, are you dancing in the play? Oh no, Barbara, we're just sewing, but we're dancing in our hearts for you. Anyway, what was the story you said? You said tell them the story.
How you thought Barbara asked me.
So when Barbara often says, what do you want? What do you want, you see? And I said, he never really said that to me. But anyway, I thought if he ever says that to me, I decided over the years I was going to ask for a pot of Viberti that never got emptied. And then when Faye got her lingam, I thought, that's what I'll ask for, a lingam, that we can have lingam water always to heal ourselves and other people. And then the other day I was thinking, in Brindavan, they take us up the front, which is lovely. But every time we've been here, we've been right up the back, like even though the wall wasn't there under that tree, and he never comes. So I said, we're going back to put a party. The last 3 times we've been in Brindavan, it's been so beautiful. And I thought to myself, if we get an interview and Barbara says, what do you want? I won't say, moksha Barbara, or realisation, or emergence with you. I'm going to say to him, Barbara, can we sit up the front when we get back to put a party? And you wouldn't believe it. We didn't get the interview. The first morning we came in here, and we walked in and we sat about halfway up, and all of a sudden one of the little Remedial came up and she said, Mrs. Shari wants you 2 ladies to come and sit up here in the chairs. They took us right up the front. We couldn't believe, we just thought it was for that morning. The next morning we went back and we're up again up the front. And we've been there ever since. Can't believe it. I said to one of the Remedial the other day, we can't believe how lucky we are to be up here. She said, yeah, but think of all the years you sat down the back. So aren't we fortunate?
And then briefly about your book.
Oh, we got time?
Yeah.
I made a book many years ago for Barbara's 60th birthday, and that was a lovely story, but I won't go into details of that, which came for his birthday. We went up to Madras and got it printed, and there were a lot of books to all come back. And I kept saying, Barbara, will the book be back for the birthday? And he's going, yes, yes. And that's how I missed out on my sari, because everybody got a sari when I was up there. And many times they've all got saris, but I always happened to miss out. That was the story about why I'd always missed out. I got one this year. So anyway, the book, and the day before the birthday, this great big truck came in from the printers up in Madras, Navrabati printers, and everybody rushed out to see if it was their book. You wouldn't believe it was my book, Moments of Beauty. It just came the day before the birthday. I said to Barbara once in the line, will the book be here for the birthday? And he said, yes, yes. And then he walked on, he looked back and he said, oh, yes, yes. Anyway, it came. That's another story. But then I've done another one since then. I illustrated Kasturi's Annunciation song, and he loved that too. And when I showed it to him, he said, oh, this is a very good book. You take it to the old man, which I did to Kasturi. That was only 6 months before he left his body, but I was able to spend a lot of time with him. He used to go up to his room at night, and he loved it. And we just got it printed before the birthday, before he died. Just a week before he died, we got the books to him, 50 books, and he loved it. He just loved it. He said, I always wanted to get this poem illustrated. He said, I was going to do it in black and white woodcuts. But he said, it would have been as dry as chips. But now I know I was waiting for you to make this beautiful, colourful creation full of
Moiya
life.
doesn't write books, but she gets lots of Barbara's sayings, and then she illustrates them with appropriate pictures.
With collage. So then I did another book. It was the feet, about his little feet. It was called Little Brown Feet. And they were going to print it in Singapore. I left it with the printer, but they never print. They decided then instead of printing it, they'd do another copy of Moments of Beauty. So the next year I went into Barbara and he gave me this ring and the little feet, and he said, "How was your book?" Every time he saw me, he said, "How was your book?" I'm never sure which book he meant, but I thought he meant the Little Brown Feet this time. And I said, "It's in Singapore." So when I went, he said, "Good." When I went back, I said to Henny Yo, the man there, "I think he wants the book printed." So Henny Yo said, "Oh, we'll do it then." Then he rang me up and he said, "We've lost it, we can't find it." It completely disappeared. And so then somebody said, he said to me, "What is the name of the book?" One interview, and I said, "Little Brown Feet." He said, "Little Brown Feet?" And he looked at his little feet and they said they were white. Pink. And then somebody said afterwards he doesn't like to be called a colour. Very people who paint him and other people who know him said he never wants to be a colour because he wants to be universal or to be differentiated. So I thought we'd change the name of the book, that's why it's lost. So we changed it to Little Feet Divine. Still it wasn't found. And when Valmay came early in the year, she said to Barbara, "Barbara, will the book be found, the proof of the Little Feet book?" He didn't answer. And then he looked after a while and he said to her, "She's making a book for me with flowers, of me with flowers." So my mother had a beautiful garden in Toowoomba, and it was really a magnificent garden. And over the years I'd taken photos, over about 30 years, when it was young and then it grew and how it developed more like a park. And when I showed these to Faye, these pictures, and she said, "Oh, we'll get them printed," and we got them enlarged. It was just beautiful because that was just about a week before my mother died, so she was able to see these beautiful enlargements of her garden with Barbara. We put pictures of Barbara in the garden. Anyway, eventually, after she died, we said, "Now this is our chance to do the book." And Faye was with us, and she stayed with us for 10 days. And every day we worked. We didn't go to work, and we worked till 2 o'clock every morning. Poor Faye was exhausted because we stay up late, but she likes to go to bed normally early. And we got the book finished and we brought it over with us.
Faye did all the writing, they're all Barbara's sayings.
Over the years I had collected any sayings about Barbara had ever written about nature or flowers or trees. So we had all these sayings and we had enough. We had about 30 pictures I think, but we had enough sayings and we had the book all printed and we took it into Barbara. He loved it. He went through every page. He loved it. When he saw the picture of my mother, he went like that and rubbed it sweetly. And he said, well, I tell him what he said. He said, I said, Faye did the writing, and he said, she should be here. She should be in here now. And he said, but never mind, I will call her tomorrow. And you come too. So the next, like your Sharma's story, the next morning, then as he was giving us the vibhuti as we were going out, he said again, you come back tomorrow. So, of course, we all got dressed up in our best and
washed our hair, did our nails, everything and for this great interview.
Saris on.
No interview.
And no interview. But eventually we all got in together. We had the interview, which was beautiful. Anyway, he said about the book, he wouldn't sign it that day. He said, I will sign it tomorrow. So eventually we went back and we talked to him some more about the book and we said, where will we get it printed? And he said, oh, in Australia. He said, much better than India. And then after a while he said, well, there's a good man in Singapore. So we took the book home and none of us got any money to get it printed, so we just prayed, and you wouldn't believe it. And this time a man came, he only came for 5 days, a lovely man, a friend of ours called Lenny Rodrigo from Singapore. And his wife rang us up one day from Singapore and she said, Lenny's got something to tell you about the book. So when Lenny came, he said, we're going to print the book for you. And different devotees have donated.
See, when Moiya does the book, she doesn't sell it. She doesn't want any money for it. She just gives it, and then we even buy our own copies back.
So they're doing it. But when I said to him, now, Barbara, will you sign it? And he said, so he signed it. But there were 2 covers. There was a gold cover and a plastic cover. So he signed the wrong cover. So I said to him, oh, Barbara, will you sign it again? He said, twice? Oh, yes, Barbara, twice was twice as good as once. And he signed it again. Underneath he put with love, Barbara, and underneath it he put with blessing, Sri Sathya Sai. So now the book's gone off, and we're hoping to come back in May. So he said he'll have it ready if we come through Singapore. He'll have some copies ready to bring back to Baba. So that's exciting, isn't it? And we'll all make sure you all get a copy if we get them. Beautiful.
Well, Moya and I are both occupational therapists, and we have worked for many years with government bodies, and about 75 we thought we'd like to start something ourselves. It was a little different from the places that we'd been working in. It filled a few gaps that we had seen weren't being covered. So with no money, but with a lot of love and a lot of courage, a very undaunted attitude, we decided to set up this little place. It started in a little old rundown house for the disabled people to come, where they could actually take part in running the place themselves. We would be there to guide them, but it wouldn't be a matter of we're in charge and you do this and you do that. It would be a matter of saying, what can you do, because you will be very responsible and you will be running the centre along with us just in the background guiding you. So it was different right from the start. So that was the start of SWARA, and it just grew around that ideal. It just blossomed and grew. We couldn't believe it. The day we started, we had nothing but a rundown old house and two very disabled, brain-damaged people. We never advertised, we never looked for people, but they just all came. They came from everywhere, and we started this really loving, caring program where everybody had a part, which was very important, that. Anyway, Moya?
It's multi-diagnostic. We have them from about 15 to 75, and we give them all lunches, good wholesome lunches, and they all get a little salary at the end of the week in a special pay envelope.
It's only really a little incentive payment as a thank you.
And the name, we couldn't think of a name, and suddenly it came very clearly that we could call it SWARA, which was Sunshine Welfare and Remedial Association. And since then we've looked up, and it was really strong that that's what we should call it. We didn't know about Baba then, but we knew there was a divine, we were getting divine guidance. There was a beautiful divine force that was helping us. So lately we have since discovered that SWARA, in one Indian language, it means a note or a sound, and we said we like to feel that's what we are. We've made a note and a sound of how disabled people should be treated. And the second, in another language, in Sanskrit, or one of the Indian languages, it means a force that sustains and maintains. And we like to feel that's what we're doing. And that when they come in, the clients, we say that they have to be loving and caring and prepared to give. We said, all your life you've been givers, now you've been takers, now you've got to be givers. And that's all, that's the only rules we have there, really, that they have to be able to fit into some kind of a program. We set up programs to suit them. Someone wanted to do mechanical work, so we got an old car. We get a lot of professional people who've had strokes, so the doctors, they help with the files, and the engineers help to maintain our lawnmowers and some of our things, and the people who work computers do our typing and look after our office work.
And the carpenters help maintenance. It's really incredible. The typists type. They're all disabled, and they don't feel disabled though, because the idea is we always want them to feel that disability hasn't necessarily needed to spoil their lives, that they've still got a lot to give, and that they only have to tune in and be loving and caring. And that is really the base of the whole program, and that's what and Baba has really always appreciated. He said, it's a very good place. He said, could you give the disabled meaningful work? And that's very important.
And he said, and I give a helping hand.
And from the first day, we now have 200 on the books, and they're all difficult people in one way or another. They're all difficult in that they can't be fitted into other sort of program, like brain damaged people, as Moya said, men who've had important lives and then suddenly, because of an accident, a car accident or a stroke or something, they can't fit into their original life. So we just have to find a place for them, a little niche. And this whole centre just works, doesn't it, Faye? A lot of people come from Baba devotees who come to do their seva there, and they're all loving and caring. So everybody contributes what they can and what needs to be contributed.
And there's a real feeling of love and energy there. People walk in and they say they can feel the energy there. And it's a really happy place. They did a statistic in Australia. A group of university professors came to do a research to find out in Australia which organisation had the best relationship with the disabled people. And they came back and they said, the whole of Australia, you have won. You're the best. Because the clients here, they like themselves, they like the organisation, they like the work they do, they like the people they work with, their peers, they like the supervisors and the people who help them. And everyone here believes that SWARA wouldn't be as good as what it is if they weren't here. And they talk about our place, can we afford this, can we afford that?
And the money situation is quite remarkable because we never set ourselves up with money. We had nothing the day we started. We had an old railway building on a bit of railway land that was quite derelict, and so was the building. And little by little, with all the energy we put into it, we restored the buildings, we restored the land, we planted trees, we planted gardens. Trees. It's just beautiful now, and it's just lovely, but it's not our land, and we depend on money, that just donations mainly. And people love us and they care about what we're doing, and they even tithe money to SWARA, which is wonderful. And we run at a very low cost because of the fact that we don't pay salaries to anybody. They're all voluntary workers. Anyway, it all sort of flows together and makes a sort of little pattern of giving and serving and loving.
For many years we were always in the red in the bank, but the bank manager was lovely. He used to say to us, he came to see us once while we were always in the red. And he said, when he saw the place, he said, oh, well, I promise I will never dishonour one of your cheques again. And the next day we got a donation for $1,000.
And the amazing thing is that just recently, the land that we were on, that the railways have given us ever since, for a very nominal rental of $80 a year. But we have to pay all the expenses, though. Anyway, it was sold to a different government department. And that government department couldn't decide whether or not we could stay because they had other great plans for it, and they did a research group. And
for a whole year they've had 20 people doing a research on what would be the best thing to do with the land.
And of course everybody wrote on our behalf. We had letters from all over the world, and all barber people wrote, and politicians wrote, and professional people wrote. Anyway, just a week before we left, we'd only been home for 6 weeks, as Moya explained, they said they were going to have a meeting to tell us what decision that they were coming up with. That would be within a month, and I said, oh, we're sorry, we're not going to be here in a month because we're going, in a week, we're going to India. So they said, well, we'll try and put the meeting on for you, and they're really sweet to us, and they're really lovely to us, all these people. They've sort of tuned into what we are. And so the meeting was put on the Friday before we left on the Sunday, and they said, we have decided because of what you are and what you're doing, we're going to allow you to stay there. So that was, and they said, we want to tell you so that you'd go to India with peace of mind and you wouldn't be concerned. And we'll help you to restore it and even make it better. We'll be behind you and we'll make it a beautiful place. Mm-hmm. So that was an incredible, beautiful thing that happened. And somebody said, well, we are good and we do a lot of good, you know. And they said, yes, we know, that's why you're staying. Mm-hmm. And somebody said, we've seen you put down spiritual roots here. Because it's like in the centre of Brisbane, right in the central city.
Our postcode number's 4,000.
And it's all around us is traffic, and there's like this little oasis there in the middle with trees and wildlife and happy
beautiful
people.
Gardens and little waterfalls and pretty miniature.
And a nice atmosphere, and lovely atmosphere, lovely vibrations.
And we've got a lot of wildlife there. We've got a very rare brown ring-tailed possums, and we've got the big grey possums, we've got lizards, and we've got frogs. We had a lot of frogs. Different colours. We could never get a green frog, and just the day before we left, someone brought us a pregnant green frog.
We said, they don't get pregnant. Oh, yes, she's full of eggs, they said.
And when we go back, we're having to have a lot of green frogs there. And we've got quails and pheasants. And
the disabled people do all the looking after and caring for them. We have a few snakes, don't we? Not venomous ones.
It's really a most exciting place. If anybody comes to Brisbane, we'd love you to come and have a look at it. And we said to Barbara just recently, Barbara, you know, you are helping us still with SWARA. He said, of course.
And we were written up in the, SWARA was written up in the Santa Fe, wasn't it?
Twice.
And Mr. Narashima, who you probably know, he came to Moya the other day because Iris Murphy had actually written the article, and Mr. Narashima called it, "The Beacon Burns Brightly in Brisbane." Anyway, he came to Moya the other day and he said, "And how's the beacon?" And he said to somebody, "That's the beacon that burns brightly in Brisbane." So it was really lovely. So we do know that that's a very good Siva thing. And we do depend, I think, about 80% on Baba devotees, don't we?
And although we'd love to come and live here with Baba permanently, we feel we still have a role to play there for a little longer.
Because Moiya and I direct it, and you just need somebody. What you need is somebody at the helm who won't spoil the goals and ideals. You see, there's a great tendency that it has to be done this way or that way, or like the government say, or like... But you see, it's not right. It has to be done the way the disabled people want it. And that's what we have to be around a bit longer to make sure it stays that way. And I really believe that eventually there'll be someone else will take our place and they will do it the way it's been started. And then I think we can come to Baba perhaps. But at the moment we've got to spread ourselves between Baba and SWARA, Baba and SWARA. They're our main commitments in life at the moment.
Well, we do eventually hope that we can come here and live here with Baba.
Taran.
Is there anything else?
Interesting. As I said, we used to get in the red, and then all of a sudden we got out of the red and we were always in the black, but we'd have no money and they'd say to us, oh look, we're getting a bit low, this is only going to last us another 3 days. So we have programming in the morning where all the clients all come into this big room and we talk about the day's events and what everybody's going to do, and we ask them, are they happy doing that and would they prefer something else? Because it's such a big place, nearly 200 people then, there's about 10 different departments.
A lot of coordination has to be.
A pottery shop, we've got a toy shop, we've got a big kitchen where we make cakes, we've got a big therapy part, we've got a big metal shop where we sell our scrap metal, and Dennis is helping us with that. We have a big assessment area, we have a part where we do remedial teaching and therapy. So it's really quite a big, and the garden, a big garden, and we probably have about 10 people working full-time in the garden, and then we have the maintenance, and we have
the lunches, the housekeeping.
And the lunches. So we work all this out in the morning. Now, if we're short of money, which we frequently are, we all stand together, and we all hold hands, and we talk. There's a lot of different religions there, and although a lot of us are Baba devotees, we don't talk about Baba all the time. We do talk about Baba. We're going back to see Baba, but we talk about God, Almighty God, because we have Muslims and we have Hindus and we have all religions, Protestants and Catholics and all the different Protestant religions. A lot of Baba people. So we just say Almighty God, and Dorothy always says this little prayer. Tell them what you say.
This particular day I think was wonderful. I said to them all, now all come in, everybody, volunteer workers, everyone, you must all come, and we must all hold hands to make it really work for us. And one girl said, I don't want to be in that, I don't believe in God. And I said, well, do you believe in cosmic forces? Oh yes. Well, come on then, today we'll say it differently. So we all held hands and I said, dear cosmic forces. We said our little prayer. And we said, I just say, please help us. We are now in a position where we need that little bit of extra help, although we know we're getting it all the time. We want something a little bit special to happen now because we're running very short of money, and you know that we can't keep going without it, and you also know that we use the money well and to good advantage. You know, we care for the land, we care for the people, we care for the environment, and you know we do it with love and service to you, so please send us what we need. And then we just say, thank you. And it comes from somewhere. It might be a donation, it might be a gift, someone might sell something. One day we were desperate and we sent our scrap metal and we didn't have enough for our Christmas party where Dennis works and we got a cheque of $600 so they paid for our Christmas party. It's just incredible, it all happens. So
and
we just go on
we'll get a big donation, we might get a lot of little donations. We might get a donation for $3.70 and it'll say on it, this is my tithe. I'm only a pensioner, but I value your work so much, I'm going to give you my tithe from now on. And then we got a little letter one day with a few dollars in it, and this lady said, I did well on the Melbourne Cup, so I want to share it with you. It was about $7. So sweet. And we get big donations. We get up to 10,000 sometimes. A lot of groups like the
Paul Newman Foundation, who's the actor, no?
He
gave us a donation.
And
You can cut if I remind them of something. Tell them about how you want to take all the clients to Movie World and how the money came into that.
yes, there's a place in Australia, all Australians here, are you? Movie World, where it's a little Hollywood, and they're making films. They're very good films too. They're getting a lot of world acclaim.
And Faye's son is one of the actors in one of the shows, and they all know him, Scott, because he did a lot of work in SWARA. So everybody was crazy to go to Movie World so that they could see Scott perform. And it's quite expensive. There really wasn't enough money, not enough for them to pay, or not even enough for us to pay their way in.
But all
so
of a sudden,
again, we were praying.
And a lovely lady came and she said, my golf club is going to run a function for SWARA.
They want, it's their decision, we want to take you all to Movie World. We said, where'd you get that idea? I don't know, we just came into our head. We want to take everybody here, nearly 200 people, to Movie World.
So they had this big day and we got over nearly $3,000. So
it cost us $3,000 to get them there and back and give them
the buses and the entrance and their lunches. That's the kind of thing that happens. And one day we were really short of money, and we were out. We weren't in there that day. We go every day, Dorothy and I, from 9 to 5 every day. But this particular day we had something on, so we hadn't arrived. And they rang up and they said, oh, a cheque just came in for $10,000. Dorothy said, you sure you've counted the noughts right? Yes, that's the right amount of noughts. And that was it. Just came out of the blue, anonymous. We get a lot of anonymous donations. Quite unbelievable. And a lot of solicitors ring up and say, we want some details about you because someone wants to leave you in their will.
Tell about your helpers who come through the courts.
Oh, that's right. Another marvellous thing that we are doing for the community, when the people go through the courts, and instead of paying fines or going to jail, they do community work. And they give us, they pick all the choice people to send us, a lot of professional people, a lot of people mainly on driving offences and all protesting against nuclear ships, or that kind of people come. And we get the most wonderful people come. We get doctors, we get a Catholic priest, we get high business people, people who've got their own business, and just amazing people. And they nearly everybody that comes stays on. They say, we want to stay on, either we'll join your committee, or we'll do some voluntary work for you, or we'll support you financially. And we rehabilitate them. We had a very difficult man who came to us, and he was on methadone, he'd been on drugs, and he was a very angry man. But he came to us and he said, oh, we just changed his whole life now, and he's in charge of our gardens now. And a lot of people come like that, and a lot of people then are able to go back into their life and do good for the humanity.
Some have actually joined our staff.
Yes. So it's really quite, they just think the world of us, this place that organises this, because we not only help their clients pay off their debts, we rehabilitate them. And they come out of as better people.
Say who your patron is.
Oh, our patron? Well, I don't know whether any of you have heard about it.
Are you Australian?
Archbishop Hollingworth.
Well, he's a wonderful man. He's in charge of the Church of England.
But he's a wonderful man. He was in Melbourne, and he's recently come to Brisbane. So he came to see us one day, and we asked him to come and have a look at SWARA. And he loved it. He's a great man for helping the underprivileged, and a great man for helping the ones who need a lot of help, and for caring and loving and service. And he came one day and we had morning tea together, and we showed him around, and he came back and he said, who's your patron? We said, well, we haven't got one, but would you be it? And he said, well, I will if you want me to. So he's our patron now. And he was wonderful. He was a great force in helping us with the land, this land deal that's just come through, writing to us and expressing his concerns. And he's a man with a voice in the community. And he wrote a lovely article in the paper about SWARA. On another quite nice thing that came out in the paper just recently, and we didn't even know this man. Someone rang and said, did you see the article in the paper? I said, no. Well, they said, there's a man writing in, he's questioning the viability of some charities. And I said, oh, well, we're not interested in that. She said, just read it. So we read on, and this one they're questioning, and too much money's going to administration, and something's happening there, and
Too much is
something
going
wrong.
to cars, and too many are sending people overseas.
And then he ended up by saying, but there are a few exceptional charities, and one of them is the Sunshine Welfare Remedial Association, SWARA. We didn't even know the man, so that was a lovely thing to have said, wasn't it? He said
What
that
did he say?
goodness oozes out of the goodness oozes out. So that was a lovely thing. So basically we do get a lot of recognition for the work. So,
And even that last week, was after obviously we didn't have quite enough money for the Christmas party, and we didn't have enough to pay holiday pay, which we give them a little bit. Just that we give them a special little envelope from the bank, and the holiday pay. You know, everybody else gets holiday pay. So
it's only a few dollars, but it mounts up with 200 people. You know, if you only give a little bit to each one, it costs a fair bit.
And we never have professional fundraisers. We never ask for money. Just people come and they see it, and then they give us money. But that last week it was quite incredible. Just about every day money came in, 100, 1,000, 50, 10. It was wonderful. So we had enough before we left to pay them all and to maintain it until we come back. We open again in the beginning of...
They're all on holidays at the moment. That's how we managed to get away. But there's a lovely girl who looks after SWARA when we're not there. And for years there was no one who we felt we could really trust to look after it. And then she's a Baba devotee girl called Elma. And she just suddenly turned up and she does bookwork for us. And she said, if you want to go to India, I'll hold the reins. And she holds them in the right way, in no way that changes anything that we've set up, doesn't change the goals or the aims or the ideals. So we can come over to Baba feeling quite content and happy that SWARA's in good hands. But they still miss us if we're not there, so that's why we told Baba we have to go back.
And on Mother's Day, I've never married, we've never had families, but every Mother's Day we get flowers and cards to the mothers of SWARA.
Really sweet. But it's a lovely feeling of love and energy and caring, and there are good vibrations in the place, and I think people pick them up. And that's why I think everybody's so good to us. It's incredible how good everybody is to us. But we really do love these people. I mean, honestly, they are first all the time. We really do love them, and we really do try, as Baba said, to understand them. But there's no trouble about loving them.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Well, I hope it comes out all right then.
How do you explain your son?
Oh, we've got a love child.
That's exactly what he is. We both own
Now
him.
you've turned it off too, I must tell you too, occasionally when one of their clients steps out of line, do they get a dressing down? You know, they might have a day where they're not happy about the whole deal and somebody's upset them or taken over their position that they thought they were going to hold. And boy, and they come in, well, you should see these pink marshmallows turn to steel. And they say, and the worst thing they can do is to tell them, you've got to go, you've got to leave, you can't come tomorrow. Oh, and then they get all abject and they say, oh, please, I'll be good, please let me stay. No, you can stay home tomorrow. And they come back as sweet as nuts, don't they? Because
We get so sorry for them when they're going to go crying because they did their discipline.
We send them out a packet of biscuits to cheer them up.
Or a few dollars to get a cup of coffee on the way home.
And I must tell you another thing too that happened when they were having all this trouble about, or all this selection of the land. It was going to be used for something with this big new building administration. And I happened to be there. They call me in when they've got VIPs come in and, you know, make cups of tea. And so that's
that's
my
the hostess.
Yes, I get to be hostess, which is a lot of fun. And they had these very impressive men, all done up in their business suits, sitting around the table, being plied with food from the kitchen, and they're getting hot cheese scones and hot date loaf and hot ginger cake, and they've got all their briefcases, and they're here to sort of slice these ladies off their ankles and say, look, this land is far too valuable to have this little place. They've never been in it before. So before they even get out the door to walk around it, they're being softened up with all this wonderful food. And the little office that the girls work in is it's just got, they're both artists and they've got their paintings all around the wall. There's about that much space between paintings of this entire room and photographs of the Archbishop and little photographs of Swami and everything all around. So it's an energy field that when you go in, and everything's happening all the time. They run it like the phones are ringing and everything's happening, but they're still entertaining the men. So we finally get them all fed and decide it's time for them to go walking around. And there was one really beautiful man, had a wonderful soft face with a moustache and a pinstripe suit on. And I thought, oh, he's obviously on our side, because the others were trying to maintain some form of government sternness. You know, we're not going to be swayed by the cheese scones. We're going to really have a look at this place and make it get the best dollar's worth out of how it's going to be used. So we're walking around, and I happened to be walking around because the girls don't get about, and they were still running the place. And this man came and walked beside me, and I could see everybody. There was only one that didn't soften. There was one lady who was connecting it all together, who was maintaining her own force field, but all the others were saying, this place is a miracle in action. It's absolutely unbelievable. Oh, we can't do it. It's got spiritual roots. You know, all the trees the girls have planted from nothing. And I don't know that we could pull this down. And they were just all leaning towards. And there was this one man who had this beautiful face, and I thought, well, he doesn't even have to be convinced. He's on the side. And I said to him, you know, this is sort of between God and the government, and I know who'll win. And he said, oh, well, the railways have to make their dollar work. And I said, yeah, but they don't know who they're up against. You know, they're up against God. And this man sort of looked at me and smiled at me. And I thought, well, he must know that, because he's got this lovely soft energy coming off to the girls. And then he left early, and I went back, and the girls said, what'd they say? How'd they go? You know, tell us all about it. And I said, well, we had a little laugh, this one gentleman and I, because, you know, when it's a contest between God and the dollar, there's no... At this stage, it was felt that the place would be taken over, but I said, it's a no contest. And they said, well, who are you talking to? And I said, oh, you know, that nice-looking man with the moustache. They said, oh, he represents the railways. He's the one who's trying to take it off us. And yet his energy towards the girls was such that, you know, it was just wonderful.
He was the baddie.
Yeah, he was the baddie, and yet he was giving off these lovely vibes.
I must just, James, you won't want to bother to film this, but I must just tell everybody.
Will you bring it back? Will you bring it back?
At one stage we were called into Parliament House to talk about this land that they wanted back, you see. And we went in and we said, you can't have it. It's our place, you can't have it. But they said, it's ours, we have to have it because we need it for redevelopment. They said, look, we could give you $6 million if you'll move. And we said, we don't want $6 million to establish yourself somewhere else. We said, we don't want it. Honestly, we wouldn't know what to do with $6 million. We just want the land because our hearts and souls are there. I didn't even answer that. Anyway, as I said, we got the land, so the decision went towards us in the end.
Pink steamrollers, they're called.
But the people that wrote letters, we had from John Hislop, and we had it from Henny Yeo in charge of Singapore, and Lucas Rowley in England, and
Jagerdeesh.
Oh, Jagerdeesh, and all these wonderful, impressive people. And a lot of those people have given us donations for SWARA. And I remember when Jack Hislop came once, he said to us, he said, you are doing exactly what Baba wants us all to do. Wonderful place. So they all wrote these letters, so the poor government, I think they were a bit wary about taking it away from us.
It was a prototype for centres for the disabled in the new...
This is the way they wanted it to go, and this was in the new world, in the new age. This is how disabled people would be treated. And that's really quite encouraging, wasn't it? So we're still there, and we're going to grow in strength and beauty with Baba's love and energy and help.
And there's a nice thing that Moiya always says, and she said we should have said that we take these disabled people and there might be a little spark in them, and we turn it into a glow, and eventually they'll glow and glow and glow, and they'll become really beautiful, important people in the community.